We're here with Jimmy Arias, former professional tennis player. And Jimmy, first of all, tell us how you got involved with ThanksUSA and what does this, event mean to you?
Well, actually, I got involved because Martin Blackman asked me if I'd come and do something. And when I heard what the charity was for, military families, helping them out, obviously they sacrifice for us, so it's no problem for me to give a little bit of myself for today.
Great, great. And tell me a little bit about playing in these pro-ams, these charity pro-ams. What's your sort of favorite part about doing something like this?
I like to hit the amateur as often as possible. No, I
don't. In full disclosure, Jimmy's playing with my dad.
I won't
so
hit. Usually, I don't hit my own part.
Well, I was going to say I'm
safe.
giving you permission to do that, so you can go for.
Well, what I'd have to do is set up the other team to hit him. Then that's the only way I can get your dad in any sort of pain.
Well, just give me a heads up when you're going to do it, so we can get it on the camera.
Okay, I'll try. I'll give you a wink.
Well, Jimmy, you do a lot of commentary on tennis matches, so I want to get your take on yesterday's French Open final. Rafa, Soderling, what really stood out to you? I thought it was going to be a lot closer than it was, so what was your take on the match there?
Well, before the match started, I thought it could be a tight match. Obviously, Soderling beat him last year, so he had that confidence that it was possible to beat Nadal on clay. But I knew within 4 or 5, 6 games that he wasn't going to win the way he was playing, which was he was pushed a little too far behind the baseline. If you're going to beat Rafa, you have to go first strike, serve, next shot, big, keep control. As soon as Nadal gets control with a forehand, you don't have a chance. And he was getting too many points where he got control with his forehand. And it just shows that I think he's the greatest clay court player ever.
What do you think about Soderling's tactic? A lot of times he had control on the forehand side and was kind of in no man's land and hit a bunch of big forehands as opposed to following one of those to net, and it really didn't work out for him.
It seemed obvious that he should be finishing at the net, and last year he did finish up at the net quite a bit more often than he did this year. The only thing I can say is he came in early a couple times and hit some ugly volleys, and I think he might have said, you know what, I'm not feeling it at the net today, and he just didn't have the confidence. To me, the only way, one of the ways to beat Nadal is you can't come when he sees you coming in. It doesn't matter how stretched he is. He flicks unbelievable shots.
Now,
so you have to wait till you see him that the slice is coming, and then run in. He's up here with one hand. You know slice is coming. You have to be aware enough to see it, and then commit forward. That would be the only way Soderling, I think, could have gotten away with it.
So it's a little early now, but as well as Rafa's playing, what's your take on Wimbledon? Obviously, we have to see how people do at Queens and whatnot, but what do you think about who are your favorites going into Wimbledon at this early stage?
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's one of the favorites. I'm interested to see how Federer does because I'm worried that Federer's starting the slide. He won the Australian but hasn't played well since, and everyone said, well, it's only the slams that he's caring about. Well, now he lost in the quarters of the slam for the first time in 6 years. He didn't get to the semifinals of something. So, this is an important Wimbledon for Federer. Nadal somehow, look, the grass has obviously changed from when I played, because when I played, Nadal's game wouldn't have been working, and it is now. So I can't answer because I don't know how that grass, somehow the ball bounces high enough for him to play.
Well, this is obviously a pro-am, so you're going to be playing with in my case, my dad, but an amateur. And what's sort of Jimmy Arias's, tip for an amateur? Is there a particular thing you see in doubles an amateur doing wrong? You'd say, not splitting when they're closing the net, too big of a backswing on the volley.
Instead of doubles, I'll give you the one tip that I think would work better than any other tip, because it's the key to tennis. It's what makes the pros better than the amateurs, and it has to do with movement. Obviously, movements. If you're in position, if I'm playing with an amateur and I feed it right in his sweet spot, even the 3.0 is going to make that shot almost every time. And the question is, how do you get to where you're in that position every time? And to me, the main thing to focus on is your core. If you watch mostly Eastern European players, their legs are down, their base is down, but their middle of their body, their core is always stable and straight. You rotate on it, but you don't bend in any direction. You watch amateurs, they're often reaching for the ball. They're in this position, so that makes it difficult. You're not hitting it in the ideal spot. So I would say concentrate on your core, keep that still and stable, and your feet will naturally move. If that's what you're thinking about, to get to the ball, your feet have to get to it.
Okay. So is that something you think, you mentioned the Europeans, you think they're right now better movers, or maybe being trained better movers than Americans? I mean, what's your thought on sort of how Europeans move versus some of the American players?
Well, I mean, look, the American players,
They're obviously bigger guys, you know. Sort
yeah,
of
our American
serve,
players are giants
Yeah.
that we don't have any players that can compete sort of in the movement department. But I don't know why that is.
Okay.
It just seems to be the case right now that the only players we have are 6'9".
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, Jimmy. I really appreciate it.
All right.